Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Kaylin and today I wanted to do another video of ideas of things to do instead of spending money. I find it really fun coming up with creative ideas of things to do with your time instead of doing things that just cost you a lot of money, and it's amazing how many things you can come up with whenever you sit down and think about it. My first idea is to do free exercise videos on YouTube. This might seem like a kind of obvious choice, but it's actually amazing, like the range of videos available, and you don't have to pay for any of them and you can do them in the comfort of your own home. I, in the past, have gone to a lot of exercise classes, like all different kinds of them, and I have never loved going out to go to one. I think like a big part of why I don't like them is I find it to be quite an embarrassing situation, and maybe I'm just somebody that is very easily embarrassed, but I never loved going to, like, for example, a yoga class and being singled out by a teacher at it and they like adjust your poses, or if there just happen to be like a critical type of person that goes around correcting everyone while you're there. Like, I never enjoyed kind of being put on the spot like that. And there was one time I went with a friend to a belly dancing class. It was my first ever time going, and I found out while I was there that I am awful at belly dancing. Like, it's probably the worst thing that I've ever attempted to do. Like, I thought it would be really fun and that it would probably come like fairly naturally because I do enjoy dancing in general, but belly dancing is just not for me. It was like I couldn't get the movement right, and they gave us these scarves, and it actually was funny because I got like lost in the scarves and couldn't. There was some sort of dance move where you were meant to kind of encase yourself in the scarves, but then you kind of reveal yourself out of them, and I just kept getting tangled in it, and it was funny how bad I was at it. But I think I'd rather find that out on my own than in front of a whole class of people, and although there's comedy value in that, it's not really ideal, and I would rather probably try things out for the first time at home if I can. And like, why not do it for free in your own living room instead of having to pay for the privilege of trying something out that you might not even like? And I know that there is a social aspect to it as well, and some people like to go to classes for exercise, but I'm just not one of those people. And I have found so much online. I love yoga with Adrian, and I found various dance and like aerobic classes online over the years, and I've tried other yoga videos, although I always tend to come back to her. And whenever my kids were being homeschooled for a while, we really loved doing Cosmic Kids yoga together. So yeah, there's so much stuff out there, and there's no need to pay and to go out of your way to go to a class when you can do it at home for free. My second idea of something to do instead of spending money is to reread your favourite book. This is something that I don't do often enough, I think partly because I have a never-ending to-be-read list, and I'm constantly working my way through that, and I always find new books every time I go to the library, like things I've never heard of before, and I read the blurb and it appeals to me and I kind of get sucked into reading them. And I love to kind of work my way through recommended lists, and also just like taking recommendations from friends and family as well. And I have found so many great books by doing that, but at the same time I never really tend to reread anything, and I loved doing that as a kid. Like, I had certain books that were my favourite books. It was like a comfort book, and I would just read it again and again and never get sick of it. And I feel like you, like, maybe instead of always trying to tick off books on a list that you have to have read in a year, and I think with Goodreads and reading challenges introduced so often, sometimes you can feel like you're rushing through books instead of really savouring them. And I really want to get into like allowing myself to reread books and enjoy them and rediscover what I loved about them the first time around. And this is my favourite book, John Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath, but I actually haven't read it in about 15 years, and it's just been sitting in my bookcase, and I am going to reread it because I want to see if I still feel the same way about it as I originally did. And I really want to just enjoy the experience of rereading without constantly trying to complete a list of books to be read before you die. And another favourite book of mine is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Excuse my nails, I really need to repaint them after this. And I don't know if anyone else has this problem that has kids, but if I paint my nails, they literally last for a day or less because I just feel like I'm constantly washing dishes and doing things that are really hard on my hands. I actually have read this book several times, but not in a few years, and I want to reread it. I don't know what it is about it, I just love it. I just really connect with her thought process in this, which probably should be worrying, but yeah, it's just a book that's always made me feel kind of understood. As well as that, I love Just Kids by Patti Smith, and I basically love anything by Patti Smith, so I have this book as well that I could reread. And I'm sure if I dig in my bookcase there are a few more. So number 3 is to play solitaire. I never really thought of doing this like with physical cards until my mum suggested it to me a couple of years ago whenever we were just sitting in on a kind of wintry day, and she said, why don't you play solitaire? And I remembered how much I enjoyed playing it, but I actually prefer playing the physical version over like anything that's on like a phone or computer because it's just much more restful. And I have always loved playing like board games and things like that, but sometimes the rest of your family or friends aren't in the mood to play with you, and this is a game you can play by yourself, and once you get the hang of it, it gets really addictive, but it's simple to grasp the concept of it, and it's just a good idea of something to do to get you away from your phone and you're not spending any money while you're doing it. Number 4 of my ideas of things to do instead of spending money is to do a board game swap with friends or family, or to buy a very cheap puzzle or board game from a charity shop and kind of revive your collection by doing that. It means you can get to play something that you're not tired of, like maybe you'll get to find a new game that you love that you've never played before. And there are so many things out there that are just sitting in people's houses not being used, so you might as well like share them with friends and family and make full use of them. And I just find doing a puzzle a really great activity for an autumn or winter day. My mum and I have had phases on like a Sunday afternoon of doing puzzles together, and we'll just kind of gradually work through the really big, like, well, to me a really big puzzle is like 1,000 pieces, but I don't know if that is big. But we did finish one which felt like a huge accomplishment because I never did before, and it just is like something restful to do, and it's good for a day when it's bad weather outside, and it saves you money as well, and just it fills the time. Like it's something you have to be slow and mindful about. Number 5 of my ideas of things to do whenever you are trying not to spend money is to add items to your watch list on your streaming service. It isn't like something that I do often, but I have sometimes sat down and intentionally done that because I find that if I'm in the mood to watch something like a documentary or a film or series, like at night time after my kids have gone to bed, sometimes I don't have the energy to go through everything and find what I feel like watching, and I don't have the energy to sit down and read the description of every single show to figure out what it is I want to watch. And there have been times when I've gone onto Netflix, for example, and I have looked through a few like programs and stuff, but I haven't been able to find what I'm in the mood for, and just I've given up in the end and not bothered watching anything. And I think it's handy to have like a playlist ready to go of things that you know appeal to you, or things you want to see again, or just to have it kind of ready for those moments when you have kind of decision fatigue and you just want something quick to do. And if you actually make a point of going through all of the films and all of the series on whatever streaming service you use, it's amazing how many you find when you're digging for them that you didn't know were there right away, and you mightn't have found them otherwise. So I actually think it's a good use of time. Number 6 is to make your own cookery book of all your favourite recipes. I find that if you're using lots of recipes, you can sometimes forget some of your favourite ones because you get into like a habit of cooking the same things like again and again, but there might be recipes that you have loved for years that you have just kind of forgotten about because you've been so busy making meals for your family or for yourself when you're working, and you just sort of forget that they exist. But here's an example. Can you tell that this has been something I've owned for like 20 years? I think that's the sign though of a well loved and used recipe book, is that it's covered in food stains and looks disgusting, because obviously it's been like well used. It originally had something else stuck here. I remember it was just a plain notebook that I covered with this paper and put stickers on. And then I have filled it over the years with recipes a lot. It's even got like random pages in it that fall out every time you open it, and it's full, so I had to start a second one, which is also getting dirty now. But I just think it's a good way to compile all your recipes so you remember them, and like you don't have to go and Google things then if you have forgotten an ingredient or can't really remember the measurements of something. And it's also something nice to pass on to people, like, because my granny used to write down her recipes, and I don't know what happened to them whenever she died, but I would have loved to have like inherited those, and maybe sometime my kids will want to have mine, and God help them if they do, because by that stage it'll probably be like illegible and completely, it's already disgusting. It's just nice to have something you can pass down. Number 7 of an idea of something to do instead of spending money is to take a ball to the park and play football or basketball. My daughter really loves playing netball, and she tends to choose the netball club in school whenever they get to do it as an extracurricular activity. There was a time where she really wanted a basketball net, and I couldn't get one because I felt like there was nowhere to put it at our house, and I still kind of feel like that. But a lot of parks have basketball courts at them, and you can just use them whenever they're free. So I took my daughter there with a basketball we had bought, and we played a game of it together, and it was really fun. And I think that sometimes if you think outside the box and kind of think around about areas that you know and think of the facilities that are there, it gives you more options of activities to do when you don't necessarily have what you need to do them at your own house. We've also taken footballs and played like football together just for fun on pitches beside parks before, where the nets aren't being used and they're just open to anyone to use, and it's just like a fun game, plus you have more space to do it than you would in your own garden. Number 8 is to delete excess emails and photos from your phone. This is something that I rarely make time for. I usually am forced to do it whenever my memory is filled up and my phone won't let me save something, and then I have to go through and, in a stressed sort of mood, look for things that I could delete. And if you have a free moment and you're looking for something to do, it's a good way to fill the time, because you'll thank yourself for it later, and it sort of declutters your mental space too, getting rid of emails and photos that you don't need and duplicates and things like that. So it's something I want to make a point of making into a more like scheduled activity, because I would rather deal with it gradually than have to, in a panic, figure out what to delete when my memory fills up. Number 10 is to have a gathering at home. This could be for any number of occasions. Like, for example, you could have a reading group, you could have a wine tasting party, you could have a potluck where people bring their own dishes to eat together, you could have a movie night with friends, a pizza party where people make their own toppings and put them on the pizzas, a themed party like a Halloween party or a Christmas party. And I tend to do my kids' birthday parties at home. There's just so many options and ideas online, and it saves you so much money, and it's something creative and fun to prepare for. Like, I really enjoy getting ready for a party when they have one. My daughter's last party was a spa party, so I just kind of gathered up supplies. I had a foot spa already, which they used for it, and we had plenty of nail polish already. And I just got some face masks, and like their party bags were filled with things like, you know, the like kids' tattoos and like nail files and things like that. And the kids all seemed to really enjoy it, and it was simple and didn't cost much. And the same with my daughter had an escape room party one year, and at the time I bought a pack online. It's basically like a digital version of it, and you order it, it comes to your email, and you can print off any of the the parts of the game, and then you kind of like set them up around your house. It took a long time to prepare it, but it kept me busy and it was like rewarding and it was interesting to do. I think in the future, if I did another escape room game, I would probably try to make it up myself, because that one was quite complicated, but I'm sure there's all different levels you can find. And it's just that if you do it at home, there are no real limits on what you do activities wise, and it's just much less expensive than hiring a space or going out for a meal or paying for an activity for like a huge number of people. Like, I just find it much more rewarding, and my kids have always enjoyed when we have parties at home, and we've always had little family parties for things like Christmas and Halloween and stuff anyway. Number 10 is to stargaze with hot chocolate. If you have a seat or just somewhere you can perch outside whenever it's really dark and get wrapped up warm and make some hot chocolate to keep your hands warm and just enjoy it under the stars. Like, I realise how often now when I take my dog outside to the toilet at night, like I used to notice it more when I smoked, because I would go out for a cigarette and look at the sky, but I sort of forget about it now. But it reminds me that like beauty kind of doesn't end whenever the world goes dark, and there's so much like to look at in the night sky, and it's interesting seeing all the constellations. And then at this time of year too, you might catch some fireworks, and it's just a free activity that you can do for as long as you want. And I just think like it makes you feel centered, and it's like something that you could pay so much money to see elsewhere, and it's right in your back garden or on your like doorstep or whatever outdoor space you have, or if you have a large window and you can watch it from there. And there's just something as well about going outside in the cold and then having a hot drink. I just feel like it's a really great combination and makes you appreciate the warmth when you come back inside. So I hope these tips are helpful to someone, and thanks for watching. Hi to any subscribers, thanks for subscribing, and feel free to comment with any ideas you have below or any opinions you have on anything, and I'll make another video soon. Have a great day. Bye.